there comes a moment in life where noise becomes your biggest enemy. Opinions, distractions, comparisons. Everyone has something to say about how you should live, what you should do, and who you should become. But 2026 is not the year you listen to the noise. This is the year you tune it out. This is the year you focus on yourself and move in silence. Because real power, it's quiet. When you're truly building something meaningful, your mindset, your discipline, your future, you don't need to announce it. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. The strongest transformations happen behind closed doors. While others are talking, you are working. While others are showing off, you are leveling up. While others are chasing attention, you are chasing growth. And let me tell you something, focus is your superpower. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you focus on distractions, your life becomes scattered. If you focus on problems, your life feels heavy. But when you focus on growth, on solutions, on becoming better every single day, you become unstoppable. Most people never win because they divide their attention. They try to do everything, impress everyone, and end up mastering nothing, but not you. You're going to lock in. You're going to wake up every day with intention. You're going to protect your time like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. You're going to say no more often. No to distractions. No to negativity. No to anything that doesn't align with the future you're building. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Not everyone deserves access to your journey. Some people only believe in you when they see results. Some people doubt you. Some people secretly want you to stay the same because your growth makes them uncomfortable. That's why you stay silent. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. When you move in silence, you remove pressure, you remove expectations, you give yourself space to fail, learn, adapt, and grow without the weight of the world watching you. And when the results finally show, they speak louder than anything you could have ever said. Let your success make the noise. In 2026, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to explain your vision. You don't need approval. The only person you need to convince is yourself. The only standard that matters is the one you set. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? Because focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. If you don't build your life, someone else will design it for you. If you don't take control of your habits will control you. If you don't define your identity, the world will define it for you. And average is loud. Average is distracted. Average is constantly seeking attention. But greatness is disciplined. Greatness is focused. Greatness is silent. You don't need to rush. You don't need to compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. Your journey is yours. Your pace is yours. What matters is consistency. Small wins every single day, because those small wins compound into something powerful. Think about it. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you win. Every time you stay focused when distractions call, you win. Every time you keep going when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one is watching, you win. That's how champions are built. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. So in 2026, make a decision. A real decision, not just words, not just motivation that fades after a few hours. A commitment to yourself, to become stronger, to become sharper, to become more disciplined than ever before. Cut the noise, cut the excuses, cut the need for validation, and build your mindset, build your habits, build your future quietly, because one day, everything you've been working on in silence will speak for itself. And when it does, they won't ask why you were so quiet. They'll ask how you became so powerful. Focus is the invisible force that shapes everything in your life, whether you realize it or not. Every day, your attention is being pulled in 100 different directions. Social media, opinions, distractions, noise. But the truth is simple. Whatever you consistently give your attention to begins to grow. If you focus on negativity, your life starts to feel heavy and limiting. If you focus on distractions, your progress slows down. But the moment you choose to focus on growth, purpose, and improvement, everything begins to shift. Your mind becomes sharper, your actions become intentional, and your results start aligning with the person you truly want to become. Most people underestimate how powerful focus really is because they treat it casually. They let interruptions control their day. They jump from one task to another, and they wonder why they feel stuck. The reality is, lack of focus is one of the biggest reasons people fail to reach their potential. It's not because they lack talent or intelligence. It's because their energy is scattered. When your attention is divided, your power is divided. But when you learn to concentrate deeply on one goal, one mission, one path, you unlock a level of productivity and clarity that most people never experience in their lifetime. There is something incredibly powerful about deciding what truly matters and eliminating everything else. It requires courage because it means saying no to things that feel comfortable, entertaining, or even socially expected. But every time you say no to a distraction, you are saying yes to your future. Every time you resist the urge to drift, you are strengthening your discipline. Focus is not just about working harder, it's about working smarter with full intensity on what actually moves your life forward. And that kind of focus creates momentum that becomes impossible to stop. Your results are always a reflection of your focus. If you look at any successful person, you'll notice a pattern. They are not doing everything. They are doing the right things repeatedly with deep concentration. They don't allow temporary emotions or external noise to dictate their actions. Instead, they train their mind to stay locked in on their vision, even when it's difficult, even when it's boring, and especially when no one is watching. That's the difference between average and exceptional. The ability to stay focused long after the initial motivation fades away. Guarding your focus means treating it like something valuable, because it is. You wouldn't let someone walk into your house and take whatever they want, yet many people allow others to take their time and attention without hesitation. Every notification, every unnecessary conversation, every moment spent on things that don't matter is a cost you pay with your future. When you become aware of this, you start making different choices. You become more intentional about where your energy goes, and you begin to protect your focus as if your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. When you truly master your focus, you gain control over your direction in life. You stop reacting to everything around you and start creating the life you actually want. Your days become more purposeful, your actions more aligned, and your confidence stronger because you know you are investing your energy in the right places. Over time, this disciplined focus compounds into extraordinary results. What once felt impossible becomes achievable, not because you changed overnight, but because you choose, again and again, to direct your attention toward what truly matters and refuse to let anything pull you away from it. Silence is often misunderstood in a world that constantly rewards noise, attention, and instant validation. People assume that if you're not talking about your plans, posting your progress, or announcing your next move, then you must not be doing anything significant. But the truth is the opposite. Silence is not a lack of action, it's a sign of intention. When you choose to move quietly, you're choosing to protect your vision from unnecessary opinions, doubts, and distractions. You're creating a space where your ideas can grow without being influenced or weakened by external noise, and that kind of environment is where real transformation begins. There is a unique kind of strength in keeping your goals to yourself. When you don't broadcast every step, you remove the pressure of expectations from others. You're no longer performing for an audience, you're building for yourself. This allows you to make mistakes freely, adjust your strategy, and improve without feeling judged. Growth becomes more authentic because it's not driven by applause or approval, but by your own internal standards. In silence, you develop a deeper connection with your purpose, and that clarity becomes your greatest advantage. Moving quietly also protects your energy, which is one of your most valuable resources. Every time you share your plans with the wrong people, you risk absorbing their doubts, their fears, and their limitations. Not everyone will understand your vision, and not everyone needs to. Silence acts as a filter. It keeps negativity out and allows you to stay focused on what truly matters. Instead of wasting energy explaining yourself, you invest that energy into taking action. And over time, that consistent action creates results that speak far louder than words ever could. There's also a psychological edge to silence that most people overlook. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and start actually doing it, you shift your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who executes, not just someone who dreams. This builds confidence in a way that external validation never can. Each quiet step forward reinforces your belief in yourself, and that belief becomes unshakable because it's built on real progress, not empty promises or temporary motivation. In a noisy world, silence gives you focus. It allows you to cut through distractions and direct your attention toward what truly matters. You're no longer caught up in comparisons or seeking approval. You're locked in on your own journey. This level of focus is rare, and it's what separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who remain stuck. While others are busy talking about their plans, you are busy executing them, refining them, and turning them into reality without unnecessary interference. And eventually, the silence pays off. There comes a moment when all the quiet effort, the unseen work, and the disciplined focus begin to show. Results start to appear, and they carry a weight that words never could. At that point, you don't need to explain anything. Your success tells the story for you. People who once overlooked your silence will begin to notice your growth, and they'll wonder how it happened. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It wasn't noise. It was the power of moving quietly, consistently, and strategically toward the life you chose to build. One of the biggest traps people fall into is constantly looking for approval before taking action, as if their dreams need permission to exist. You start questioning yourself, hesitating, overthinking every move, because you're waiting for someone to say, yes, this is right. But the truth is, the moment you rely on validation, you give away control of your life. Your decisions become shaped by other people's opinions, their fears, and their limited perspectives. Instead of building the life you truly want, you end up building a version that fits into what others expect of you, and that's where frustration begins. Seeking validation can feel harmless at first, But over time, it becomes a habit that quietly holds you back. You start measuring your worth through likes, comments, praise, or recognition. And when those things aren't there, your confidence drops. You hesitate to take risks because you're afraid of judgment, afraid of criticism, afraid of not being accepted. But growth doesn't happen in comfort zones or approval zones. It happens when you step into uncertainty and trust yourself. The more you depend on others to validate you, the less you trust your own instincts, and that disconnect keeps you stuck. There's a different kind of power that comes when you stop needing approval and start trusting your own direction. It's not about ignoring feedback completely, but about not letting it define you. When you become internally driven, your actions are guided by purpose, not applause. You make decisions because they align with your goals, not because they will impress others. This shift changes everything because now you're no longer waiting. You're moving. You're building, creating, and growing on your own terms, and that kind of independence creates unstoppable momentum. Letting go of validation also frees you from the fear of judgment. People will always have opinions no matter what you do. If you succeed, they'll talk. If you fail, they'll talk. If you try something different, they'll definitely talk. So if judgment is inevitable, why let it control you? When you accept that not everyone will understand your journey, you stop trying to explain yourself to everyone. You focus on your path, your vision, and your progress. And in doing so, you develop a kind of confidence that doesn't shake easily because it's not built on external approval. It's built on self-belief. The moment you stop seeking validation is the moment you start discovering who you really are without the pressure to impress others. You begin to explore your true interests, your real goals, and your authentic identity. You take risks that you would have avoided before. You try things that genuinely excite you, and you begin to create a life that feels meaningful rather than performative. This is where real growth happens, not when you're trying to fit in, but when you're brave enough to stand on your own and follow your own direction. When you fully embrace this mindset, your energy shifts completely. Instead of chasing approval, you chase progress. Instead of worrying about what others think, you focus on what you're building. And over time, something powerful happens. You become your own source of validation. Your confidence comes from your actions, your discipline, and your consistency. You don't need applause because you know the work you're putting in. And ironically, when you stop seeking validation, that's when people start to notice. But by then, it no longer matters because you've already learned how to move forward without it. Every single day, you are faced with a quiet battle between what is easy and what actually matters, and most people don't even realize how often they lose it. Distractions are designed to feel good in the moment. They are comfortable, effortless, and instantly rewarding. Discipline, on the other hand, asks for effort, patience, and consistency. It demands that you delay gratification and stay committed even when motivation fades. But here's the truth that separates winners from everyone else. Success is never built on what feels easy. It is built on what is necessary. The moment you understand this, you begin to see every small decision as a defining moment that shapes your future. Distraction is not just a harmless habit. It is one of the biggest silent killers of potential. It steals your time, breaks your focus, and weakens your ability to stay consistent. 1 minute turns into 10, 10 into hours, and before you know it, days pass without real progress. The dangerous part is that distractions don't always feel like a problem. They feel like a break, like entertainment, like something you deserve. But while you're lost in those moments, your goals are waiting, your growth is delayed, and your opportunities slowly slip away. Discipline is the shield that protects you from this slow drift into mediocrity. Choosing discipline means making decisions that align with your future, not your current mood. It means showing up when you don't feel like it, staying focused when your mind wants to wander, and doing the work even when it feels repetitive or boring. This is where most people quit. They rely on motivation, which comes and goes. But discipline doesn't depend on how you feel. It is a commitment, a standard you set for yourself that doesn't change based on convenience. And over time, this consistency builds a level of strength and reliability that becomes your greatest advantage. There is a powerful transformation that happens when you consistently choose what matters over what is easy. You start to build trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on your commitments, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than excuses. That internal trust becomes confidence, and that confidence fuels even greater action. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who talks about goals, but as someone who executes them. This shift in identity is what creates long-term success, because once you believe in your ability to stay disciplined, nothing can easily break your momentum. It's important to understand that discipline is not about perfection, it's about direction. You will have moments where you slip, where distractions pull you in, where you lose focus. But what matters is how quickly you return to your path. People who succeed are not those who never face distractions, but those who refuse to let distractions define them. They reset, refocus, and continue moving forward. This resilience is built through practice, through repeatedly choosing the harder path until it becomes your natural response instead of the exception. When you fully embrace discipline, your life begins to change in ways that are impossible to ignore. Your productivity increases, your goals become clearer, and your results start to reflect your effort. You no longer feel stuck or overwhelmed because you know exactly what needs to be done and you trust yourself to do it. While others are caught in cycles of distraction, you are steadily building something meaningful. And over time, that consistent choice to prioritize what matters over what is easy becomes the foundation of a life that most people only dream about but never have the discipline to create. Time and energy are the two most valuable resources you have, yet they are also the easiest to waste if you're not intentional. Every single day, something or someone is trying to claim your attention. Requests, distractions, obligations, and endless opportunities that may look appealing but don't truly serve your purpose. If you're not careful, you can spend your entire life being busy without actually moving forward. Protecting your time and energy means recognizing that not everything deserves a place in your life, and more importantly, not everything deserves a yes from you. Saying no is one of the most powerful skills you can develop, but it's also one of the hardest. Many people struggle with it because they don't want to disappoint others or miss out on opportunities. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, you are silently saying no to something that does. Your time is limited and your energy is not infinite. If you keep giving both away without intention, you'll eventually find yourself drained, unfocused, and far from where you actually want to be. Learning to say no is not selfish. It's necessary for growth. There is a clarity that comes when you become selective about how you spend your time. You begin to evaluate opportunities differently, not based on how easy or exciting they seem, but based on whether they contribute to your long-term vision. This shift changes everything because it forces you to prioritize what truly matters. Instead of reacting to everything around you, you become proactive. You choose your commitments carefully, and as a result, your actions become more aligned, more focused, and far more impactful. Protecting your energy is just as important as protecting your time. The people you surround yourself with, the conversations you engage in, and the environments you place yourself in all have a direct impact on how you feel and perform. Negative energy can drain you faster than any workload, while positive and supportive environments can elevate your mindset and productivity. When you start being intentional about where your energy goes, you naturally begin to distance yourself from anything that pulls you down and move closer to what pushes you forward. This level of discipline requires you to set boundaries, and boundaries are often misunderstood. They are not about shutting people out or being distant. They are about creating space for what matters most. When you set boundaries, you are defining your priorities and making it clear what you will and will not tolerate. This not only protects your focus, but also builds respect, both from others and from yourself. You start to feel more in control of your life because you're no longer allowing external forces to dictate your time and energy. Over time, this habit of protecting your time and energy begins to compound into something powerful. You become more productive without feeling overwhelmed, more focused without feeling restricted, and more aligned with your goals than ever before. While others are constantly pulled in different directions, you are moving with purpose and clarity. And that's the real advantage. Not doing more, but doing what truly matters with full presence and intention while confidently saying no to everything that doesn't deserve a place in your journey. There is a quiet phase in every powerful journey that most people never see, a phase where nothing looks impressive from the outside, but everything is changing on the inside. This is where real growth lies, in the unseen hours, the unnoticed effort, the silent decisions that shape who you are becoming. In a world obsessed with sharing progress and showcasing success, it's easy to believe that what matters is what people can see. But the truth is, the most important transformations happen when no one is watching, when there is no applause, no recognition. Just you and your commitment to becoming better. When you're alone with your goals, there is no pressure to perform, no need to impress anyone, and that creates a space for honest growth. You can fail without fear, learn without judgment, and improve without comparison. This privacy allows you to experiment, to make mistakes, and to refine your path in a way that public pressure would never allow. Instead of chasing validation, you focus on progress. Instead of trying to look successful, you actually build success from the ground up, layer by layer, step by step. There is also a deeper level of discipline that develops when your efforts are not being seen. It's easy to work hard when people are watching, when there is praise waiting at the finish line. But the real test of character is what you do when there is no audience, when no one is keeping track, when the only person who knows whether you showed up or not is you. In those moments, you either build integrity or you break it. Choosing to stay consistent in private builds a strength that cannot be faked, because it is rooted in who you are, not in who others think you are. Private growth also protects your vision from unnecessary influence. When you keep your journey to yourself, You reduce the chances of doubt, criticism, and negativity interfering with your mindset. Not everyone will understand your path, and not everyone needs to. By working quietly, you give your ideas time to develop fully before exposing them to the world. This creates a stronger foundation, one that is built on clarity and confidence rather than external opinions that can easily shake your direction. Another powerful aspect of growing in private is the sense of ownership it creates. When you achieve something without broadcasting every step, the accomplishment feels deeper and more meaningful. You know the effort it took, the sacrifices you made, and the challenges you overcame, even if no one else does. That internal satisfaction becomes a driving force, pushing you to keep going not for recognition, but for the fulfillment of becoming your best self. It shifts your motivation from external rewards to internal pride, which is far more sustainable. Over time, the results of your private growth begin to surface, and when they do, they carry a different kind of weight. People may see the outcome, but they won't see the countless hours of effort that went into it. They'll notice the confidence, the discipline, the progress, and they'll wonder how it all happened. What they won't realize is that it was built quietly, consistently, and intentionally behind the scenes. And that's the beauty of it. When you grow in private, your results don't need explanation because they speak for themselves in a way that words never could. There is a common misconception that success comes from bursts of intense effort, those moments where you feel highly motivated and push yourself to the limit for a short period of time. It feels powerful, it feels productive, and it gives the illusion of progress. But the truth is, intensity without consistency fades quickly. Motivation comes and goes, energy rises and falls, but consistency is what carries you forward when everything else fluctuates. It's not about how hard you go for a day or a week. It's about how steadily you show up over months and years, even when it doesn't feel exciting. Small daily actions may seem insignificant in the moment, almost too simple to matter, but they hold an incredible power that most people underestimate. When you repeat a positive habit every single day, it begins to compound. One step doesn't change much, but 1,000 steps taken consistently can take you somewhere extraordinary. The key is understanding that progress is not always visible immediately. It builds quietly beneath the surface until one day the results become undeniable. What once felt small and unimportant becomes the foundation of something truly impactful. The reason consistency beats intensity is because it builds momentum. When you show up every day, even in small ways, you create a rhythm that becomes easier to maintain over time. You don't have to rely on motivation because your actions become part of your routine. This reduces resistance and makes progress feel natural rather than forced. On the other hand, intense bursts of effort often lead to burnout. You push too hard too fast and eventually lose the energy to continue. Consistency, however, is sustainable, and sustainability is what leads to long-term success. There is also a psychological shift that happens when you become consistent. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you reinforce your identity as someone who is reliable and disciplined. You begin to trust yourself more because you're proving day after day that you can do what you say you will do. This self-trust is powerful because it builds confidence from within. You no longer need external motivation to keep going because your belief in your own ability becomes your driving force. Consistency teaches patience, and patience is essential for achieving anything meaningful. In a world that craves instant results, it's easy to feel discouraged when progress seems slow. But those who understand the value of consistency know that real success takes time. They don't chase quick wins, they build lasting habits. They focus on the process rather than obsessing over immediate outcomes. This mindset allows them to stay committed even when results are not visible, because they trust that their efforts will eventually pay off. Over time, the power of consistent action becomes impossible to ignore. What started as small daily efforts turns into significant growth. And what once felt difficult becomes second nature. You look back and realize that the gap between where you started and where you are now was not created by a single moment of intensity, but by countless moments of quiet, steady effort. And that's what sets you apart, not how fast you moved at the beginning, but how consistently you kept moving forward when others stopped. Not everyone who enters your life deserves a permanent place in your world, and understanding this can completely transform the direction of your journey. Many people allow anyone and everyone to have access to their time, their thoughts, and their energy without realizing the impact it has. Every conversation you engage in, every opinion you listen to, and every influence you allow shapes the way you think and act. If you are constantly surrounded by negativity, doubt, or distraction, it becomes incredibly difficult to stay focused and motivated. Protecting your space is not about pushing people away. It's about being intentional with who you allow close enough to influence your mindset. There is a difference between being kind and being accessible to everyone. You can still be respectful, supportive, and compassionate without giving unlimited access to your inner world. The problem arises when you let the wrong voices get too close, when you allow opinions from people who don't understand your goals to guide your decisions. Not everyone sees your vision the way you do, And not everyone believes in the path you've chosen. If you give those voices too much power, they can slowly plant seeds of doubt that weaken your confidence and hold you back from taking action. Your mindset is one of your most valuable assets, and it needs to be protected just like your time and energy. The people you surround yourself with have a direct influence on how you think, how you feel, and ultimately how you perform. If you are constantly around individuals who complain, make excuses, or lack ambition, it becomes easy to adopt those same habits without even realizing it. On the other hand, when you limit access and choose to engage with people who are focused, disciplined, and growth-oriented, your mindset begins to shift in a positive direction. You start thinking bigger, acting with more purpose, and holding yourself to higher standards. Limiting access also allows you to maintain clarity on your own path. When too many voices are involved, it becomes difficult to distinguish your own thoughts from the opinions of others. You start second, guessing yourself, questioning your decisions, and losing confidence in your direction. But when you create boundaries and reduce external noise, you give yourself the space to think clearly and act with certainty. You begin to trust your instincts more because they are no longer being drowned out by conflicting influences. It's important to recognize that not everyone is meant to grow with you, and that's okay. As you evolve, your priorities change, your mindset shifts, and your goals become more defined. Some people may not align with that new version of you, and holding on to those connections out of comfort or habit can slow down your progress. Growth often requires distance, not out of negativity, but out of necessity. By limiting who has access to your journey, you create room for new influences that better support the direction you're heading. When you become intentional about who you allow into your space, you take control of your environment and your future. You stop being influenced by randomness and start shaping your mindset with purpose. This doesn't mean isolating yourself completely, but it does mean being selective, aware, and disciplined in your interactions. Over time, this level of awareness strengthens your focus, protects your energy, and keeps you aligned with your goals. And as your circle becomes smaller and more intentional, your growth becomes stronger, clearer, and far more unstoppable. There is a powerful shift that happens in life when you stop trying to explain yourself and start letting your results do the talking. Many people waste valuable energy trying to convince others about their goals, their potential, and their plans, but words alone rarely create lasting impact. People may listen, they may even nod in agreement, but true belief only comes when they see evidence. That's why success is not something you need to announce. It is something that naturally commands attention when it is real, consistent, and undeniable. When you focus on results instead of recognition, your entire mindset changes. You stop performing for approval and start building for substance. Every action becomes more intentional because you are no longer trying to impress others in the moment. You are working towards something that will eventually speak for itself. This removes the pressure of constantly explaining your journey and allows you to channel that energy into actual progress. The less you talk about what you will do, the more focused you become on actually doing it. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your work will eventually reveal everything. Instead of arguing with doubt or defending your path, you simply continue moving forward. This kind of mindset builds resilience because you are not dependent on external validation. You understand that opinions will always exist, but results are what remain. And when those results start to show, they carry far more weight than anything you could have said in the beginning. Letting results speak also protects you from unnecessary distractions. When you constantly talk about your plans, you expose them to opinions, criticism, and sometimes even negativity from people who don't fully understand your vision. But when you stay focused and quiet, you give yourself the space to work without interference. Your energy stays directed toward execution instead of explanation, and that shift alone can significantly accelerate your growth. Over time, consistent action builds undeniable proof of your effort. People may not notice your early struggles, your long hours, or your quiet discipline, but they will notice the outcome. And when they do, the narrative changes completely. What once required explanation now requires no words at all. Your progress becomes visible, your results become evident, and your success begins to answer questions you never had to respond to. Eventually, you reach a point where you no longer feel the need to justify anything. You are too focused on building, improving, and evolving to worry about being understood by everyone. The work itself becomes your voice, and that voice grows louder with every step you take. And in the end, it is not the promises you made that define you, but the results you delivered, quietly, consistently, and powerfully enough to speak for themselves. Committing to becoming your best self is not just a motivational idea, it is a decision that reshapes the entire direction of your life. Most people like the idea of change, but very few actually decide to change. A real decision is different. It removes hesitation, excuses, and uncertainty. It means you stop negotiating with your potential and start taking responsibility for it. In 2026, this kind of commitment requires honesty with yourself about where you are right now and courage about where you want to go, even if the gap between the two feels uncomfortable. Mental evolution is where everything begins because your thoughts shape your reality long before your actions catch up. If your mindset is limited, your life will be limited no matter how much effort you put in. Committing to growth mentally means challenging old beliefs, breaking patterns that hold you back, and feeding your mind with ideas that expand your thinking. It means choosing learning over ignorance, clarity over confusion, and discipline over distraction. When your mind becomes sharper, your decisions become better, and better decisions naturally lead to better outcomes. Emotional growth is equally important because success without emotional stability feels empty and unsustainable. Many people carry past experiences, fears, and insecurities that quietly influence their behavior every day. Becoming your best self means learning how to manage your emotions instead of being controlled by them. It means not reacting impulsively to situations, not letting setbacks define your identity, and not allowing fear to dictate your choices. Emotional strength gives you the ability to stay calm under pressure, focused during challenges, and grounded even when life feels uncertain. Physical discipline is often underestimated, but it is deeply connected to your mental and emotional state. The way you treat your body affects your energy, your confidence, and your ability to perform. Committing to physical growth doesn't require perfection, but it does require consistency. It means taking care of your health, building strength, improving your habits, and respecting your body enough to give it what it needs. When your physical state improves, your mindset naturally becomes more positive and your daily performance reaches a higher level. What makes this commitment powerful is not the intensity of one big decision, but the consistency of small daily choices that align with who you want to become. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, learning over distraction, or action over procrastination, you are reinforcing your identity. These small decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they accumulate into a completely different version of yourself. The process is gradual, but the transformation is undeniable when you stay consistent. In the end, becoming your best self in 2026 is not about waiting for the perfect moment or external motivation. It is about deciding that you are no longer willing to stay the same. Once that decision is made, everything else begins to shift. Your standards rise, your habits change, and your focus sharpens. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally, and that shift alone is what separates those who dream from those who actually evolve into the person they were capable of becoming all along. In the end, everything comes down to one simple truth. Your life will always move in the direction of your decisions, not your intentions. You can have goals, dreams, and ideas for who you want to become, but without commitment, they remain just thoughts. Real change begins the moment you decide that staying the same is no longer acceptable. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger, more aware, and more willing to take responsibility for your growth. That decision marks the turning point where excuses lose power and discipline begins to take control. Becoming your best self in 2026 is not about chasing perfection or comparing your journey to anyone else's. It is about daily alignment, choosing actions that reflect the person you are trying to become, even when no one is watching. Some days will feel easy, and other days will test your patience, focus, and emotional strength. But consistency is built exactly in those moments where you choose to continue despite discomfort. Over time, those small choices create a version of you that is more confident, more capable, and more grounded in purpose. There is also a deeper realization that comes with growth. Not everyone will understand your journey, and that is completely fine. When you start evolving mentally, emotionally, and physically, your priorities shift, your mindset changes, and your standards rise. Some people may not relate to that transformation, and others may question it. But your progress was never meant to be understood by everyone. It was meant to be lived by you. Staying committed means accepting that growth sometimes requires distance, silence, and focus. As you continue this journey, you begin to see that discipline is not restriction. It is freedom. Freedom from chaos, from doubt, from inconsistency, and from a life that feels out of control. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are building a stronger foundation for your future. Every time you choose patience over impulse, you are reinforcing your ability to handle bigger challenges. And every time you choose growth over comfort, you are expanding the limits of what you believed was possible. Eventually, the effort you put in starts to show in ways that cannot be ignored. Your mindset becomes clearer, your emotions become more stable, and your actions become more intentional. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. That is when transformation becomes visible, not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to recognize that you are no longer the same person you were when you started because the habits you built in silence have shaped a completely new identity. So the real message is simple but powerful. Becoming your best self is not a single event, but a continuous decision you make every day. It is built in quiet moments, in private struggles, and in choices that no one else sees. And if you stay committed long enough, you reach a point where you don't need motivation to continue. You become the kind of person who naturally moves forward. That is where real transformation lies, not in promises or words, but in the disciplined pursuit of becoming who you were always capable of being.